So unusually, the reading on this Pentecost morning comes to us from the Gospel according to John, chapter 14. This is Jesus speaking. If you love me, you will keep my commandments. And I will ask the Father, and he will give you another advocate to be with you forever. This is the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it neither sees him nor knows him. You know him because he abides with you, and he will be in you. I will not leave you orphaned. I am coming to you. In a little while the world will no longer see me, but you will see me because I live. You also will live. On that day you will know that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you. They who have my commandments and keep them are those who love me. And those who love me will be loved by my Father, and I will love them and reveal myself to them. Judas, not Iscariot, said to him, Lord, how is it that you will reveal yourself to us and not to the world? Jesus answered him, Those who love me will keep my word, and my Father will love them, and we will come to them and make our home with them. Whoever does not love me does not keep my words, and the word that you hear is not mine, but is from the Father who sent me. I have said these things to you while I am still with you, but the Advocate, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you everything and remind you of all that I have said to you. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not let them be afraid. Your word, O Lord, is a lamp to our feet.
I don't know if I mentioned it on my opening, but today's Pentecost, and today is known as the birth of the church. It links back to the first Pentecost, which David kind of questioned. I know, no, that wasn't the right way I'm trying to say it. Interestingly, we read from John chapter 14. What David didn't say was where we didn't read from today is Acts chapter 2. And I do get the choice every year on what reading I'll have at Pentecost, and I get the choice usually of a reading from John, or of a reading from, or the Acts chapter 2 reading of the tongues of fire and all that kind of stuff. And I figured that's every year. That every year the same reading pops up, and I thought this year I'd go with this part of the John reading. It's our birthday. It's the birth of the church. I was reflecting that birthday parties usually come, they come in all kinds of forms. But usually they're one of two types. Either you're going the big shebang, All right? You're having a birthday party where you're inviting a whole bunch of people. You've booked a hall or a venue. There's an array of food, or you've done your backyard up, you know what I mean? Like you're having a big one, and you've got a whole array of food. You might have even booked entertainment, a DJ or a performer. There's streamers, there's balloons, there's gifts, there's speeches. And if you're unlucky, like I was at my 21st, one of my friends organised a strippogram, you know what I mean? Like they're kind of, like, you go the whole hog. It's a big event, all right? It's a big event. It's a birthday party, it's a big event. The other way that people do birthdays is something more intimate. And you might just have a small number of people over or out. There might be candles. They're more based on conversation and chatter. The conversations go a little deeper. Can you see the difference I'm drawing? And I kind of got it right? You know, through COVID, a lot of us didn't even get to do some of that. Like we were doing birthdays via Zoom. But they're probably the two ways that people do birthday parties. The thing is that both are valid. Both are valid ways of doing your birthday. Sometimes you feel like a big shebang. Sometimes you feel like just having a small number of people around you. The thing is that who you invite is probably the important part of all of this. Who comes along? Who celebrates with you? Who is it that's there to celebrate you? And my guess is that when we gather people for a birthday party, for a gathering, we gather those who have walked with us in joy, in celebration. We gather those who have walked with us in sadness, in mourning and in grief. We gather those who know us and have stood by us in thick and in thin. The people who know the best of us and the people who know the worst of us. The people who love us because of who we are and love us in spite of who we are. We gather the people who perhaps have mentored us or guided us, supported us, comforted us. We gather the people maybe who have challenged us or protected us, the people who have refined us. We gather the people who gave us life. We gather the people who give us life. It's kind of like when you invite the Spirit, you get all of that. When you invite the Spirit of God, you get all of it. Now, as I said, parties come in two forms. There's a whole lot of forms in between, but I don't want to be so dichotomous, but I'm sure someone on the way is going to tell me a different way they had a birthday, but that's okay. But like the big party, the big shebang, the streamers, the balloons, the entertainment, or the array of food, that's a bit like your Acts chapter 2. The day of Pentecost with the violent winds, the tongues of fire, the speaking in tongues, the crowds all gathered, the impassioned speeches, the people bewildered. That's a bit like your Acts chapter 2. The big pyrotechnics and wind show, you know? And that's valid, that's good. Most of us who have been in the faith for any period of time know that our faith kind of goes like this. It troughs and peaks. And there are times when the Spirit drags us or meets us in this amazing kind of peak kind of way. Something happens where you just kind of go, wow. People who chase that all the time are called addicts in any form of life. And if you've been in the faith for any period of time, you know how to find the Spirit, that yearning. You'll know that yearning inside of you for the Spirit that is with you from not just at the peaks, but on the way to a peak and on the way back down, all the way to the trough. And all the way back up and all the way back into another trough. If you've been in the faith for any period of time, and if you're not in the faith at all, or if you're kind of seeking the faith, the promise that I'm leaning into today is this promise of the Spirit that comes to us in our reading today, which isn't in the pyrotechnics and the wind and all that sort of stuff. It's in the more intimate, the close, the connected, the Spirit of God that falls on us, lives within us. In the early manuscripts of John, it's not there right through now, we don't get it, but that says that the Holy Spirit is us. In other words, we're deeply spiritual people. We've just become more awake to it. Even when life is at its rock bottom, we're deeply spiritual people. We've just got to become awake to it. I love the intimacy of John chapter 14. In fact, most of the John 14 through to about, for about 5 or 6 chapters there's these really intimate settings. And the Holy Spirit is mentioned a few times, turns up a few times. I love John's Pentecost moment. We don't read it at Pentecost, but we kind of miss it. I love the part of John where where Jesus offers his disciples the Holy Spirit. Do you know where it is? It's when they're gathered and afraid in the upper room after Jesus is resurrected and he comes, in resurrected form into the room. And one of the things he says to them is receive the Holy Spirit. And then what does he do? He breathes on them. It takes us back into that sense of the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of God. The word is ruach, is the Hebrew word. And it's both a feminine word, which I really like too. Ruach is a feminine word. The word for the Holy Spirit is a feminine word. And it also means breath. As David emailed me this morning or last night, didn't you, David? To remind me that. But ruach means breath. So there's this sense of the Spirit that breathes life into us. And it's in this intimate setting that our reading is set today. The other thing I really love about this way of understanding the Holy Spirit, and again, I want to be very clear, both forms of the Spirit are valid, and there are times in our lives when the Holy Spirit catches us amazingly by surprise. And there might be a pyrotechnic show, or there might be some point of amazement in your life where you are standing in awe saying, wow. There's this intimacy also about the Spirit. And the word we get for the Spirit that's used, it comes to us in the English translation as comforter or advocate. In other words, the one who knows the depth of who we are. And walks with us and draws us into a space where we re-find our spirit and our humanity. In the Greek, the word is paraclete. You might have heard me say this before, and you might already know this, but the word is paraclete. The word for the Spirit that Jesus uses in the Greek is paraclete, which means to lead from beside. What a joyous word. I find that such a beautiful word in my own life. That I will find the Spirit, not somewhere out there, not in some, like the Spirit of God walks with me and leads and guides me from beside. So how do we know if the Spirit is trying to lead or guide us from beside? That's the harder part in life, because often our human nature is to ignore that voice, to ignore that leading, to ignore that guide, to ignore the part of us that is Spirit, that is connecting with the Holy Spirit. If I could find another way of describing it, I don't know, it's a bit like my Year 3 science experiment, where you get a bit of paper and you get a big magnet and you get the iron filings, right? And all of us are a bit like the iron filings, and the big magnet on the other side of the paper. You know what I'm talking about, where you pull the magnet around, and the iron filings all follow. That's a bit how I see us, and it's a bit how I see the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit's like the big magnet trying to draw us, and we, as the iron filings, are our spirits awake and being drawn in the same direction. Are we awake? Because every opportunity we get in our lives to choose a pathway of peace, every opportunity we get in our lives to choose an act of kindness or words of kindness, if you want to know the Spirit, if you want to feel the Spirit trying to work in you, try and think of somebody who you do not like or get on with very well and find some kind words for them. And don't end it with a but. That's the act of God. That's the Spirit of God trying to work in you, to see the good in another. Every time you choose compassion, or you've got the opportunity to choose compassion, or you've got the opportunity to stop and to pray in the middle of something that's not going well, or in the middle of something that's going great. Every time you take the tough pathway of trying to find forgiveness. These are all urgings of the Spirit. This is the Spirit walking beside you, trying to lead you. Every time you choose to be inclusive, every time you choose to see another as they are and to love them, every time you choose or are given the option to choose generosity or gratitude, every time you are given the opportunity to choose humility. You are given the opportunity to choose love. And as our passage today reminds us, every time you are given the opportunity to choose love, you are given the opportunity to let the Spirit be alive in you that's showing Jesus to others. That's how Jesus is known. That's how Jesus is seen. When we choose these kind of ways, when we let the Spirit guide us, to the point sometimes that these things become default settings within us. That's where Jesus is seen. That's where the Spirit is alive. That's where the Spirit is in us. That is where the Spirit is working through us. That is where the world goes from from can't see or doesn't see, that's where the world is given the opportunity to see. When we let the Spirit of God, as close and as intimate as our next breath, ruach, when we let the Spirit of God fall on us, flow through us, guide us, walk with us, lead us. Friends, today is a birthday. It's a birthday of the church. Many happy returns, that's right. Great choice of words, because here's the thing. This is where I'm landing it today. We're given the opportunity to actually turn this into a return. We're given the opportunity. The thing is about birthdays is most of us, even if you go to a birthday where the invitation is your presence is enough, no presents, your present. A lot of people still sneak a present in, right? There's still gifts at a birthday. Well, here's the thing. When the church is having a birthday, the gifts are here. You and I have the opportunity to be gifts. Back into the world around us. Walking, being led by, being guided by the Holy Spirit. Friends, many happy returns. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. We're going to sing.